Good morning! Happy Sunday! While my kiddo is still asleep, I thought I would get our lunch together and have it ready to go into the oven while we were at church. Ideally, I would have a little something prepared that could be in the oven while we're at church, but I'm expecting that we might be there a little bit longer today, and so I just want to make sure I've got something ready to go. Today is, oh gosh, I've been eating this recipe prepared in different ways for over 25 years at least. I call them sour cream enchiladas, but it's, in a nutshell, it's a recipe that's readily available on the back of many packages. It was very common where I grew up, and essentially you have a combination of cream of chicken condensed soup, sour cream, one chopped onion, a couple cups of chicken, and then a couple of cups of shredded cheese. Mix all that goodness up, and there you go, the filling. And per usual, I substitute whole fat Greek yogurt, the plain flavor, for sour cream, and I find that it really does mix together differently with the texture. It has a beautiful flavor, very similar to sour cream. I come to really prefer it. So this is going to be kind of interesting. I'm also going to put the filling into some corn tortillas, and on the package this said to heat them up over in a griddle over 350 degrees, so I'm just going to ballpark it. And typically with corn tortillas, I dip them in a little water before I put them in to skillet to heat them up, but follow the directions and see where this goes. So it's about 30 seconds for each tortilla. Since I have the filling made and I have the baking pan prepped with a little bit of red enchilada sauce is what I'm going with today. I'm just going to go ahead and get a little bit of a assembly line going. So hopefully you can see that well. I'm making good progress cycling through my pantry storage. I love enchiladas and the flavor of enchilada sauce, so I have the red and the verde sauce that I use interchangeably in recipes. But I'm getting close to the end, and I actually beat this expiration by 3 months on the red sauce, so kind of a nice win. And of course I just restock. I like to get a large can, a pound and a half, or 1 pound 12-ounce can. This is quite a good product. It is best, of course, if you make it from scratch, and I do have a recipe that I quite love, but at the same time my blender's been doing triple duty because as the weather heats up, we are doing a lot of smoothies for breakfast, and so I found that it might be a little easier sometimes to just use the canned. Alright, well, so for these tortillas I just have a tea towel on the ready. I've got a pan over medium heat. They said about 20 to 30 seconds for each side to heat it up. And so I will just do so. Did beautifully. And I'll just stack it up right there. Stack them up one by one. Cover them up so they stay warm, and then I'll get to the stuffing. But I hope this Sunday finds everyone well. I've had a lot of fun returning to longer cooking videos. It's nice to have the flexibility of not having to sit in front of a computer to upload a long video, especially with my internet connection can sometimes be a little dodgy in this neck of the woods. And last stream was pretty fun because there were actually a couple of people who showed up in the chat room during the live feed. And it was wonderful to see some kind comments and questions. Some of my work is performed over Zoom, And so I've actually gotten quite used to having a face and a voice to go with the communication. So in a sense, this is also a bit of an adjustment because there are neither of those on these live streams, and I'll do my best to keep my eye open for any comments and address them along the way. But if you are here, welcome, and thank you for spending a little bit of time with me in the kitchen. And I just ask that you be kind and respectful to the people in the room and to me. And please feel free to offer up any comments or any variations that you've made on these recipes. As I said, I've been making a version of this for over 25 years, and it's very popular where I grew up. I grew up in Utah, and it's always curious to see how different states prepare this same type of thing with the same basic ingredients. And actually, I do have a recipe for sour cream enchiladas that I'd love to use, but just for ease of sake, I'm literally just using the recipe on the back of the tortilla package. I like doing that every once in a while, and I mix up things depending on what I kind of know to do differently. I'm glad I didn't dip the tortillas in water, because so far this is proving to be quite an awesome way to heat them up. I can feel a difference. They're not sticking to the pan at all. You can't see the other burner right now, but I'm happy to report I have retired my yellow kettle. Usually you might see that sitting on the stovetop. I've had that for, gosh, since 2011. So it's been quite a few years now. Unfortunately, I accidentally turned on that burner, intending to turn on the big burner, and the kettle was empty, and so I dry heated it, and it cracked the enamel on the bottom. And so sadly I had to retire the singing tea kettle. But like with anything else, moving into the century that we are in our modern days, I now have an electric kettle, and it is fantastic. I knew the day was coming. I got a good reference on a nice kettle that's nice big capacity, because I do like to boil all of my drinking water before I store it in the fridge. But it takes, it feels like less than a minute to boil the water. And there's no worry if I'm caught doing something else and I hear the kettle roaring or singing. There's no worry about causing a big steamy kitchen as a result. End of an era, as far as I'm concerned. It's an end of an era. Okay. Now the recipe does call for Mexican cheese blend, and also Monterey Jack cheese, but I do like to use what I have readily available. So in this go around, I'm actually using a little bit of leftover shredded mozzarella and some Colby Jack cheese that I've shredded, and I will likewise top it with Colby Jack cheese. So there is no Mexican cheese in this recipe. However, that's always a delicious way to enhance the flavor, as you like. And you could also add, some diced green chilies, some diced olives or sliced olives to the filling, if you like. That's always a good thing to do if you like those flavors. I kind of like using those ingredients for other recipes. I hate to say it, but I'm not too keen on black olives cooked. I do love them fresh. They're kind of really yummy as a salad topping. Just an idea there. We're getting going here. I went pretty heavy on the sauce on the bottom because these are bigger corn tortillas than I'm used to using, and keen to just have it soak up all that beautiful sauce. I learned, oh, I wouldn't say the hard way, but I learned pretty quickly that you want to put a little bit of the enchilada sauce on the bottom of the pan so they don't stick to the bottom. Of course, some of the filling will likely drip out to the sides, and it just kind of rips your enchilada apart if it's moist on top and really dry on the bottom because of the heat. So I recommend that. I recommend doing that to prevent sticking. Certainly when you have enchiladas prepared by someone who really knows what they're doing, they don't do it that way. And they don't typically bake a bunch of enchiladas at once. But this method is something that I see used more often. The recipe that I have says to heat up 8 tortillas, but I'm going to go ahead and heat up the whole package and just see where we go. And I'm going to do my best to Tetris those little puppies into this pan. I'm getting better and better at that. But I am not anticipating using corn tortillas for another recipe here for a while, so I might as well use them all. I do have some enchilada taco soup that is frozen. I made that maybe a couple of weeks ago, and typically what I would do is save a couple of tortillas to thinly slice and lightly cook in oil over medium heat. Just kind of make them nice and crispy. And that's usually what I like to pop over that type of a soup. But as the temps are heating up, I'm not anticipating making that soup immediately, and I am on a bit of a Mexican cuisine kick just because I love it, and my kiddo loves it. So I'm just going to take a break from that. Almost there. Last one's going in the pan. So again, to just give you a rundown of the ingredients, you want 12 ounces or a couple of cups of chicken breast. I actually cooked up some chicken tenderloins and seasoned them with that seasoning salt as I usually do, and had those cut up and mixed into the filling last night. And also having the filling prepared in advance and a little bit chilled, it's nice, and I'm sure the flavors marry beautifully. You also want to add 10.75 ounces of cream of chicken condensed soup, 1.5 cups of sour cream or whole fat plain Greek yogurt, 1.5 cup shredded Monterey Jack cheese. They said to add a pouch of pre-cooked ready rice, Spanish rice. I'm not keen on rice inside my enchiladas, so I skipped that step. And I think that might be another fun video for another time, making Mexican rice. It's delicious, and it's a great way to use extra sauce, so maybe I'll whip that up to accompany some quesadillas, and use the rest of the sauce, because the can that I purchased is quite big. Alright, so I'm going to turn things around here. Hopefully you have a good view. Now I'll get to rolling. Burners off, have a sip of tea. And ole, as they say. So the nice thing about heating up your tortillas is it makes them nice and pliable as you're rolling. If you didn't heat them up, they would crack. Okay, and I learned a little trick as well for portioning to make bulk meals. A nice way to do it, since we have 10 enchiladas that we're going for, you just use your spatula, divide the filling in half, and then you have 5 and 5, so that way you can kind of eyeball how much filling to put in each enchilada. Now this already has the cheese and the onion in it, and so I'm Yeah, olé. Just roll it up. These nice big tortillas make a difference. I'm gonna even tuck these sides in to save myself some space in the pan. Yeah, you wouldn't normally see that in an enchilada. I'm very much used to the smaller corn tortillas. But that will help keep the filling in there. A couple years back, I worked at a ski resort, and I had a lot of fun doing that because, well, skiing to work was kind of a rare treat that few people get to enjoy. But I was for a period of time in the food service. I managed a mid-mountain lodge. Excuse me. And during the summertime, one year we had a taco truck on the mountain, and it's for me it's a sentimental story because it was just a really just worn down, broken down truck that had new bling on the outside, so it was, had beautiful wrappings for the advertisement for it. It was called the K2 taco truck, and it looked nice and new on the outside, but the inside was tragic, downright tragic, and most of the time we had to jump start it to move it out of the plaza every evening. But for me, that was a really neat experience, not to mention being able to interact with guests like that. The volume, although quite intense, it was manageable, because you only have so much space to prepare so many orders at the same time, and you try really hard not to have a long wait time. But I was not a cook on that taco truck. I was part of the I kind of undershot it with the filling here. I was one of the cashiers, and I would take orders, and so I did not get much opportunity to see how they prepared all these beautiful dishes. I think there were 15 different options, which, if you think about it, on a taco truck, you really have to have great overlap of your ingredients to be able to pull that off. So I wish I had taken a picture of the menu so I could try to do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so my trick was splitting the filling between two. I did undershoot and could have filled those a little bit more full. So from here on out, olé, these enchiladas are going to be busting at the seams. Now, too, I forgot to mention that when I've had this, prepared the same recipe in years past, they did not use corn tortillas. They used flour tortillas. So it makes sense to me that perhaps, well, you'd have a lot more space for the filling if you used corn. But I think, or pardon me, flour tortillas, they're quite a bit bigger. And what I will do if I do run out of space is I'll just use another little square Pyrex dish if I need some extra space for remaining tortillas, but I might get away with this. Let's see, 3, 6, 7. So far, so good. Try really hard to keep this plate clean. Oh, I've also known that people who are lactose intolerant or who have lactose sensitivity, the version with the sour cream probably makes it a no-go for most of people in that situation. But again, shouting the praises of the Greek yogurt as a substitute, I would recommend using that. And I have actually done that with someone who had sensitivity, and they gave it a try, and it didn't give them issues. So, note to self. Okay. Well, I think if I stack them a little differently, how many do I have left? I have one tortilla left. And I have quite a bit of filling left. So what I'm going to do, set that aside. I'm just going to use another pan. And make myself a nice little lunch. And in the meantime, I'm going to top these goodies with sauce. You really do want to try to get the edges as best you can so they don't dry out. I'm going to top this goodness with more cheese. And I'm just going to use some of my flour tortillas. These puppies are huge. Look at that, like Mondo size. And I am actually not going to reheat or heat them up. I'm just going to have a go as is. Ironically, when I bought these tortillas, these large ones, I had the intention to use them for this recipe. So even if I get one good one, it'll be just fine with me. In fact, I might be able to just use the rest of the filling here and cut it before I put it into the dish. It'll be all good. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. There, and that there is a nice big lunch for me later this week. Alright, a little drizzle of sauce. The rest of the sauce on these are going to be really moist. That is just fine. Gosh, one day soon, one of my neighbors has offered to help teach me properly the ways of Mexican cuisine. He is quite a wonderful chef, so I am really looking forward to that. Okay, I got a little lazy this cooking cycle and decided to just purchase pre-shredded cheese. As a time saver and a space saver too, because you can crush it up and keep it in the storage in the fridge very easily. All right, lunch enchilada 1 is ready. Oh, look at that. And I quite like cheese, obviously, so I'm going to go a little generous. This is where I will deviate from directions in most recipes, is add a little bit of extra cheese. It is definitely possible to go too far when it comes to this type of thing. Oh, the more the better. Yeah, and at this point, if you want to sprinkle it with a little olives too, make it look pretty. And after it comes out of the onion, you can garnish it with some chopped green onion as well. That'd be yummy. Alright, now if I were in Utah and serving to a Utah group or crowd, I would have put probably 3 times more cheese on there, because that is something consistent with Utah. They like their cheese. So, go ahead and pop this goodness into a 345 degree oven. You don't want to cover it. You bake it for 40 minutes until the enchiladas are hot and bubbly. Just let it sit on the stovetop for a little bit to, until the bubbling stops so you don't scald yourself. And if you let it sit a little bit longer, it'll allow, and let it cool down just a little bit, it'll keep the enchiladas, they'll set up a little bit better, and it'll be a little bit easier to serve. Now, I kind of stack them in the way that I do, so it makes it pretty easy for me to know where the edges of the enchiladas are, so I'm not slicing or cutting into or scooping into one of the others as I go. So it's pretty obvious to me, even after the cheese melts, where those enchiladas lie. And I know that there are 9 in there. I was able to fit 9. And the other tortilla was a little cracked and falling apart, so I'm just happy with that. So serve that goodness up with some lovely, I have a great recipe for Mexican rice and beans. It's black beans and Mexican rice all cooked together. So I might whip some of that up a little bit later today, we'll see. And that just kind of gives you a little extra oomph. A beautiful thing to remember is that a whole protein, let's see, rice and beans combined when eaten at the same time does create a whole protein. It's nice, healthy, and lean. So I try to do that combination as often as I can, especially if I'm skipping the meat. This has chicken in it, so plenty of protein in the cheese as well. But yeah, serve this up maybe with some lovely fruit. Watermelons, I've been seeing them a lot in the stores, especially as we're coming up to the 4th of July. So maybe something like that would be just refreshing. I call watermelons nature's Gatorade. I heard many years back from a doctor that that's one of the best ways to keep your body hydrated, is to eat some watermelon daily. But anyways, that is that for this afternoon, and thank you again for joining me. I wish you a wonderful Sunday and an awesome week.